Everybody to the March 28th, 2023 Finance Committee meeting for the Town of Littleton. This meeting is being held virtually via Zoom. Agenda for tonight, we have a Finance Director update and discussion. We'll discuss the fiscal 24 budget. We will review and discuss and hopefully make recommendations on the annual town meeting warrant articles. After that, we'll open it up to public input, followed by member updates, approval of minutes, any other business, and anticipated adjournment around 8:30 tonight. So with that, I will toss it over to Patty for the Finance Director update.
Good evening, everyone. Hope everyone's doing well tonight. I won't take very long because I know we've got a pretty hefty agenda here tonight, and we're lucky enough to have Ryan here to kind of walk through for the second time in 24 hours all of these warrants that we're going through. Couple of things to update you on. We're working on finalizing the warrant. We're hoping to get it to the printer, I would imagine, by the end of the week. So we have it and we meet all the requirements to get it ready for town meeting. A couple of things that are going on in my office. We are working on getting some bond rollovers in April. We have a ratings call on April 18th with Standard & Poor's, and then we will do the sale on, I believe it's May 2nd. Some of the other things we're working on is we've got our chart of accounts and our munis upgrades still ongoing. It's going to be a few months to go, and still trying to hire position in our department. So that's kind of what's going on. I didn't really want to take too long tonight because, as I said, we have a pretty hefty agenda tonight. If there's any questions you guys have for me or anything you're wanting to hear from me, feel free.
Okay. You mentioned earlier today, I think, that you invited Nick to come in. Is he going to do that or not? Or
he is. So what I do is I told him that once we got close to where he was, we'd let him know. I'm hoping that maybe once we get through, when we start the articles, I might text him and have him come in. And then if you guys wouldn't mind taking it out of order to get him in and out, that'd be great.
That's fine.
Yeah, Pat, he's actually sitting in he's hanging out in the lobby already. So
okay. Out there. All right, so when we go through the articles, if you want, we could start with those, Ryan, if you have no objection to that. And
fine.
Yeah. Well, do we want to do that now? I mean, if we're going to take it out of order anyway, we could do those couple, and then let him go have dinner with his kids.
Exactly.
And what article numbers are they?
It would be articles, the very end, it's articles 21. I believe 21 and 22 are the ones that.
That's correct.
Yeah,
that's correct. So, so can we promote Nick so that he can speak to these?
Yeah, I'll do that. There's a couple of hands up too. Chris Browning, Michael Schaefer. Do folks know who they are, what they might want to talk to?
Say again, Tyler.
There's two hands up in the audience. I'm not sure who they are. Chris Browning and Michael Schaefer. Is that anyone know who those?
I don't know.
I don't know.
They may just be ready for putting the hands up for public input.
Okay. Well, Chris, Michael, if you could, we'll get to that. We'll let Nick and Fernando talk about the article, and then we'll circle back to you.
Okay. Is Nick on?
He is. I just let him in as a panelist.
Okay. All right. Can everybody see my screen?
Hi, Nick.
How's it going?
Okay.
All right. Lucky me, I get to go first, huh?
Well, we can hold you to last if you want, Nick, but
well, whatever you guys need. Obviously, we have two very important articles. I was in front of the select board last night talking about these articles, and I had a good meeting with Patty this afternoon, and she asked if I come in, and for sure, anytime you guys need us, we're here to answer these questions. And it was still flushing through some of the details of these two articles, but I think they're a lot further progressed than probably the last time we spoke. Actually, one's going to be a new article for you guys. So, but the water infrastructure one, we'll attack that one first. Not much has changed there as far as how the article is drafted and what it shows. It's still a $19.2 million borrowing. That number comes from the SRF loan application that we submitted in on. There's a lot that makes up that 19.2 million, and right now we're working closely with town council, the town administrator's office, our finance team, and likewise similar roles and personalities on the Boxborough side. I think, and we heard this from you folks, we've heard this from select board, from the town administrator's office. Obviously, the need to protect the Littleton taxpayer and the Littleton ratepayer from the event of a betterment default in Boxborough. So that's kind of really the last piece we're working through on the IMA. And town council, we've been meeting with them probably twice a week now for the past month, trying to get our arms around that. There's a lot of moving pieces because of the Mass DOT's involvement, the Mass DEP's involvement as well. But I can kind of break down financially the 19.2. We can get into the project if you guys have questions about the project, but I think let's first start with the finances. It's a $19.2 million borrowing authorization. It's a complicated project where it's got three distinct pieces to it. There's a new water source, a new well that looks to be very promising. The pump test proved out for 500,000 gallons per day, which obviously more water for the town of Littleton is critical and is a great thing that we found as part of the project. And then there's the transmission main that will convey that water, that new source, to Wickham Ave. Wickham Ave was designed to handle an additional source because we had been hoping to find a new water source in this area for quite some time. And actually, Ryan will remember back from the days, about probably 5 years ago, it was identified by Boxborough to have a water source on the Harvard Sportsman's Club, maybe the Cisco property. So we were always thinking that we'd hopefully find another source to bring back to Wickham Ave. And we were fortunate enough to find one and work with the planning board on getting land as part of the host community agreement with the Amazon property. So we've done that pump test. Looks promising. That's the one piece. The transmission main to bring that water back to the Wickham Ave treatment plant. The second piece, and then the third piece would be the extension of the distribution network to service 11 different properties in Boxborough. Those properties are a mix of both, small businesses and condo associations that have been impacted from salt and PFAS contamination, with their proximity to Interstate 495.
Right. Hey, Nick, how does the 19.2 break down between the well, the main, and then the extension in Boxborough?
Yep.
Do you have a ballpark?
Absolutely. That's a great question, Fred, because that's kind of what the benefit to Littleton comes from that question. And if we were to do the well and the transmission main, which you would need to do without Boxborough, if we were to develop the source, it'd be about $6 million on just that piece. And then it'd be whatever, 13.2 for the distribution system. Because we tied the projects together, they're on a single state revolving fund loan application, and there's a PFAS aspect to it. It qualifies and has been given the authority for a 0% interest loan that we wouldn't have access to for the $6 million project without the Boxborough piece. And I'm not sure what town loans are going for now, but say it was 4.5%, somewhere in that range. I could be wrong. Patty and her team probably answer that better. That's over $3 million, just a savings, just interest over 20 years.
So, well, 3 million on the 19, right?
No, 3 on the 6.
3 million on the 6?
Yep. 4.5% at over 20 years, unless my math is wrong, Fred, and I'm sure you'll correct me very quickly. It is. So that's one benefit. Another benefit is we were going to have the Boxborough residents pay their proportional share of that project. So it's 500,000 gallons a day. They're looking for 65,000 gallons per day of water. So they would pay whatever that ratio is. I think it's about 13%. They'd pay that of the well. There's connection fees. It is about $3 to $4 million of connection fees. And the big piece is the Mass Department of Transportation has, and this isn't necessarily in writing yet because they're working through some releases from the impacted parties in Boxborough, but it appears they're going to give us $7 million of funding towards this project because they strongly feel that this is the best financially sound and permanent solution for the impacted parties.
Okay, so the borrowing is likely to be more like 12 million.
I'm not sure on the timing of that, but if you would actually have to borrow the full 19 and then pay down 7. But yes, our debt would be at some point would be bought down from about $7 million.
Okay.
I'm just not sure on the timing of that. If we get it right away, do we have to borrow the $19 million first and then pay it down? I'm not sure.
Okay, well, we're fixing the DOT problem. So we should play hardball on this and tell them the money comes pretty soon and not have them drag it out over 15 years.
Yeah, we've already played a lot of hardballs. And I think that number started at $1.5 million. At some point, it's not a financial benefit to Littleton water ratepayers. So the commissioners have really been holding strong at getting them to pay half of the Boxborough piece of it. That's where that $7 million comes from. That covers half of the cost of the Boxborough portion of the project.
Okay, but that's relatively chump change compared to if they ended up in court and had a decision against them. So I would push them to get that money earlier rather than later.
Yeah, and I'm not sure I think they'd end up trying to find another solution with these residents that would take a long time.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
A question, you may not be able to change the wording, but in the article, it's, the last sentence is, it's the intention of the town repayment in the first instance from water system revenues. Is it possible to say anything there about how we're likely to get a bunch of this repaid from Boxborough or from DOT? Because if I didn't know, I'd read this and saying, oh, well, they're going to pay it off by raising my rates. Yeah.
So those details are all in the intermunicipal agreement. So we're working on an intermunicipal agreement right now with the town of Boxborough. They'll have all the details you're referring to, Brian.
Okay, great. And so when you all present this at town meeting, you'll say
probably part of it. Yep.
Gotcha. Thank you.
Yeah.
I think one of the concerns, again, I think I touched on this very quickly, but so if the DOT is paying for half, that means the remaining half of the $7 million is paid back through betterments to the town of Boxborough. So we're trying to work with the town of Boxborough to have some assurances there that if there was a default, how does that get cured?
Right. Yep. Okay.
Cool.
Well, you guys are easy tonight.
Well, because you've talked to us before.
Well, we haven't talked about this one yet, so this one might not go as easy.
Excuse me. When is the Boxborough town meeting? Or maybe Ryan knows better. But when is the annual town meeting in Boxborough?
I think it's the second. I think it's the second Tuesday in May.
Okay, so it's basically right on top of ours.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay, so we may be in town meeting before they are, and I would assume that this is the kind of thing that would have to go before the town of Boxborough.
There's nothing for Boxborough town meeting. The only action that they'll have is their select board to authorize their town administrator to sign the intermunicipal agreement.
Okay.
And essentially, that the reason for that is that this is between LALWD and and 11 properties. The town is so that's why.
Yeah, there was talk, Fred, of going with special legislation. So I think maybe that's what you're referring to. We were going to do a home rule petition, but town council has actually looked into that, and there will be no special legislation because it involves two communities. So eventually we'll be working closely with Senator Eldridge on general legislation that actually is a lot more stringent and gives the water department a lot more authority than the IMA. So that the first piece will get the IMA in place. That will have all the details that Brian was talking about. And then we'll go work with Senator Eldridge on getting general legislation that gives us the full rights to own, operate, and maintain that water infrastructure as if it was in Littleton. Similar to how the town of Littleton did it back in 1911 when they formed the Littleton Water Department.
Right. And the Boxborough lawyers are comfortable with that as well. I just don't want to get down the road here, Nick, and have, somebody in Boxborough, raise their hand and raise all holy hell and bring this thing to a screeching halt. I just it feels, I've known the town moderator in Boxborough for years and years and years and years, and I've got plenty of earfuls on how things work over there. So I just, make sure that all the T's are crossed and I's are dotted.
Yeah, and to give you some further assurances on that, Fred, we haven't designed anything yet, so it's not like we're going to be at Springtown meeting. We're going to get this authorization and we're going to stop building. There's still probably 6 to 9 months of design that has to happen. So that general legislation should be in place before we construct anything. And I'm sure that the commissioners will want that in place anyway.
That's fine. Okay, good. That's great.
Okay.
Okay.
All right. So this one is new for you folks. We've been opening the sewer bids, and I think we had 5 different bids, and 4 of them came in great, and 1 of them came in terrible. And the one that came in terrible was the installation of all the pipes in the roads and the pump station. I think it was estimated at around $8 million, and it came in at $15.5 or $15.6 million. And talking to Steve Yarnley about it, our only thoughts are that there's so much federal funds out there. There was less bidders than typical. I think we had 5 bidders when we did the water main project for down Spec Pond Road and Air Road. We had like 14 to 15 bidders, and there's just so much work out there, and there's not any more contractors. Because even the 5 bids that we have, they on that part of the project, they range from like 15.5 to $21 million. We almost wanted to throw up with it. We were so disgusted, but it is what it is. The unfortunate thing with it is, if you remember, we came in at the previous town meeting, and I think this number is wrong in here. And right now,
Nick, I can, well, I'll let you finish and I'll continue on. I did find some more information about that. So.
Is it the wrong number, Ryan?
Yeah, it is. Yeah. So just the way that the article will have to be revised, because what the intention of it was to go back to and amend the earlier approval of town meeting. What Nick had informed me about an hour, a conversation we had about an hour before this conversation, was that the initial number that went out in the annual, in the special town meeting warrant at 28.5 was actually reduced on the handout down to about, I think, 25 million. I think, Nick, is
yeah, that's what I remember too.
Right. So all that we would need to do would be then to basically change that, and then redo the math as it relates to the shortfall that we're looking at, that Nick was referring to at the $2.84 million figure. So those figures do need to be updated. So interestingly, if the number was the number that was proposed, I think we might be okay, but or at least closer to it. But that unfortunately is not the case.
I wish I remember who the guy was that pushed that number down. I think it was me, unfortunately. But
so the increase isn't 2.8; it's more like 5 and change.
No, that 2.8 number is what we're short in funding right now.
So we slide them both down. Okay.
Yeah.
Right. So it's
right.
It's so 25 million plus 2.8 million, and that's how we'll we'll get to
So-
it. So,
So it's less than the 28.5 that we were initially looking at.
Yeah, right. But
Okay.
I mean, I would love to say that the 25 number was correct, but I think that number, it ended up being right, but it was right for different reasons. You know, it was just, you know, the industry's crazy right now. The construction costs have all escalated. Supply chain is out of control. It's just kind of the world that we're living in. The good thing is that the users pay for this, and you know, the 550 King Street's a 62% consumer of sewer. So whatever we borrow, that probably will be on the hook for 62% of it. And I think the town is about 6 or 7%. I can quantify that number and get it back to Ryan and Patty, but you know, obviously the impact of the town isn't as much as it would be to someone like the Lapoli companies who own 550 King Street. And if we don't build the project, now we're kind of in a strange place because we've already started building the project. We've already acquired a site for a treatment plant. We've already started the discharge site. We've designed the project. So the town's already put in, you know, millions of dollars to expand our sewer system. But we've come up short of about $2.84 million that we need to have the town authorize us to borrow. The good news is it would be borrowed to the same SRF loan that we have at that 1.5%. So that's good that we've, because we're able to borrow up to $32 million right now on that loan. So we don't have to go through the town for that. It would still be through the Clean Water Trust. That's the good news on it. There's still hopes that we can get that number down with the contractor that won the pipes and pump station work. There's a few things in their proposal that I think we can hopefully negotiate them with. But we won't have that done prior to town meeting. So we're going to need some sort of backstop in case we're unsuccessful in those negotiations.
Right.
Right. So,
No,
so it seems like
the 62% that you're saying you're expecting 550 King Street to use. Does that include the 410 property, or is
No, so
that incremental?
yeah, so the way the betterments are going to work, it's going to be off of current water usage, which he has really none there. We have received our permits for 243,000 gallons per day, and the commissioners have set a way to reserve capacity for properties such as his or even the Northern Bank property. I think those are the only two that would qualify under their policy that they can reserve capacity. He put a request in a couple months ago for, I forget the number, it was around maybe 200,000 gallons per day. And we don't have that capacity to give them, so we're going to give them 150,000 gallons per day.
Right.
If you take that 150 into the 243, that's where the 62% comes from.
Okay.
Okay. So I get that this is not really in any way optional. I mean, you know, we got to approve this. I will say everything with the sewer continues to make me nervous. And you know, if we have put so many eggs in the, you know, 550 King Street basket that if that, you know, project for whatever reason fell apart, and projects fall apart, you know, would be in a bad way. So
yeah, I think that we feel the same way, Brian. All those same concerns that you just said, we have concerns. So we're developing an agreement with the Lapoli companies for that reservation of capacity that'll be tied to his deed. So he'll pay it through assessments, tax assessments, and that will stick with the property.
Right. I'm just saying, and God forbid such a thing should happen, but you know, companies have gone away, you know, have disappeared in the past, and it's just, and I know you share their concerns. It's just, makes me nervous. But this isn't optional. We've got to approve this. So there you go.
Any other questions for Nick on this article?
and just again, just to clarify, what you see here in front of you, the numbers will be changed. That would be, again, the authorization was 25 million, at the
Right.
October 25th, 2021 special town meeting. We're going to add 2.8 million to that to get our updated figure. Just to, again, I just found that out an hour beforehand. So this is some of the updates that we need to make for the finals, just to flag that for everybody.
Okay.
So it'd be 2070, 4350.
Correct.
Yeah, and as we get closer to the town meeting, if we want to come back in and talk about this again, just let Patty know or let Jerry know, and I'm more than happy to dig into this a little bit deeper.
Okay.
Sounds
Okay.
good.
All right.
Tyler, is it
Thank you,
okay
Nick.
if we go back to the front there then?
Yeah, let's go to the top, Nick.
Nick,
Yeah, have some dinner. Thank you.
okay, great. All right. All
Are
right.
you all set with me?
Yeah, all set. Thank
Yeah,
you.
you're good.
All right, great. Have
Thanks,
a good night.
Thank you.
Thanks for the time.
We want to vote those two while fresh in our minds.
Let's just go in order, Fred. We already flipped back. I mean, I think we'll remember them.
Okay, whatever.
Okay. So Tyler, if it's okay, I'll just maybe go through the warrant with everybody, if that's all right.
Perfect. Yeah.
Okay. All right. So everybody can see my screen, okay?
Yep.
Okay. All right. Fine. So just start with the basics. We are having our annual town meeting May 1st at the middle school gym, same location. We did talk a little bit about changing the location to the high school auditorium. We're still considering that, but with kind of everything we have going on right now, we didn't want to add another layer of difficulty to what we're doing. So, but just to remind everybody, this again would be Monday, May 1st.
But just, Ryan, for your edification, we've done that in the past, and it was a miserable failure because of the seating and people climbing all over everybody to get to microphones. And, you know, unless there's a real reason not to do it at the gym, I would strongly urge you not to do that, because it was
Fred, I respect that. I think that, you know, we also heard some of those complaints based, you know, we also heard some of the feedback of the issues in the middle school as well. So, you know, I think if we were to make that change, and that's a perspective change, we have heard that feedback, and we would obviously have to really think about how the room's set up and, you know, how that would work. So it's not a foregone conclusion. We're just letting you know that we're meeting at the middle school at this time. So
that's fine. Just my 2 cents on it.
No. And you're not the first person to say that. So we know that if we were to do it, we would need to be able to make some other you know, alterations to how the room would be set up and things of that nature. But again, that's a battle for another day. So
right. The other thing I'll just toss out there is the one time we did it, the optics of having Fincom and Select Board way up on high, that didn't feel good.
Okay, all right, noted. Okay, that's fine. So just to first of all, my thanks to Patty and of course Steve Venuti for all their help in putting this together. Appreciate that. We ran this through the select board last night. Just a caveat for you. This is still reaching its final stages. We still have some numbers to fill in. Patty's been working hard on that, and we know we're going to be finalizing a lot of that as we go over the next few days. The hope is to get this to the printer for distribution at the end of this week, and I believe our target date is the Saturday the 15th, I believe is what we'll be aiming for. I think it sounds about right. So about where we're at. So working hard to get that through. So the select board basically, just so you know, had made recommendations on articles for which we had complete information on, and they just took a pause on the articles where we knew that we still had some other figures to add. So those articles that they took a pass on was Article 9, Article 16, Article 21, Article 22, 23 and 25, which I'm going to go down here, 25 as well. So still some more information there, but we've got the basic structure in place. Another recommendation that the select board had made was to move Article 24, which was the sewer enterprise fund operating budget, up in the order after Article 7. So that will now be Article 8, and everything else will move down from there. So
That's a really
where
good
we
idea.
are.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's where we are right now in terms of big picture in the warrant. So I'm going to try to go through this quickly. If everybody just let me go through, and then we can kind of hold questions afterwards. That would be probably best. First, we have our standard pieces here about how the warrants set up, and we have the listing of our select board members. This is the town moderator notice, essentially, same thing you see every year about the rules of town meeting. And from Tim. Fincom report, Tyler has, we shared the last year's template. This is highlighted. This is last year's information. But I noted that Tyler was able to work with Patty and the rest of the Fincom to get us an update on that. And I think at some point, Patty and Tyler, you may be sharing that with the group to go over that. Maybe we can go through the warrant and then come back to that afterwards. Tyler, I'll defer to you as to how you want to.
Yeah, we'll touch on it later on, Ryan.
Okay.
Yeah, there is a draft. There's a draft kind of circulating that everyone has.
That's great. And Tyler, thank you for turning that around so quickly. So we appreciate it. So thank you. So again, this is last year's. It's highlighted in yellow, and then we'll replace that with the revision. So then, of course, we end with the FY24 budget summary, which is the table in the front, and FY24 is to the left, and FY23 is over here to the right. So we are in a surplus of $4,191 here in terms of where we're proposing from that budget. Now, one of the things, just to remind everybody, what we're looking at in this budget, just from the last discussion we had, we put in additional money into the budget, reflecting the new title for the Board of Health Director. That's in there. And we also put some money in, and you'll see that in the budget for the Sustainability Committee, which I think is another $2,000. Patty, am I missing? I think I'm missing a few other things.
What about the facilities manager?
Yep,
Right, that has been adjusted as well. Thank you.
Okay.
We've adjusted that. So what you're seeing in the table that is currently in the warrant, it's reflective of those conversations that the Board of Health had, and that the Select Board had with the Finance Committee as well. So those changes are made. So
And we're still confident on that extra 150,000 that was found.
right. So those are the adjustments that we made on the revenue side for that, Brian. So Patty, I don't want to put you in the spot, but I'm trying to remember. We did a mix of different items to make up for that shortfall, Brian. So and
Great, thank you. Appreciate
it. We think it's accepting some more risk. We know that, but we think it's within the acceptable margins in this case. So
Fair enough.
okay, so first of all, we start off with the important role of naming field drivers and measures of and weighers of grain, hay, and coal. So this is something we're actually talking to town council about, maybe removing it in the future. This is sort of a traditional element of the New England town meeting, but as I do understand, Joe Knox was called out one time because there was recently where there was a horse that got loose. So I don't know how effective Joe is that. You know Joe better than I do, but that is part of the field driver's responsibility. So I don't think there's any expectation that the Finance Committee is going to be making any recommendations there. Article 2 is the acceptance of annual reports from the 22 annual town report, which I believe should be finalized prior to town meeting. Article 3 is bills of prior years. We've got two bills here, one for FY21 and one for FY22. They're both from Flowtech for printer bill repairs that, again, inevitably some of these things come up over the years. The vendors track us down, and we have no means to pay for these bills within the current fiscal year unless we get the approval of town meeting, and that's a 4/5 vote. So we always try hard not to have those bills, and we ask our staff continually to check on that. But unfortunately, that does happen, and this is the measure we have to take to get these bills paid. Article 4 is the budget. Again, my thanks to Patty and Steve Venuti for getting us all in place. I mentioned the adjustments that have been made since our last meeting. Basically what we're looking to do is to raise and appropriate $55,814,340 and the transfer from certified free cash $579,796. So, and this was of course be effective at the beginning of fiscal year 2024, which is July 1, 2023. So this has the entire budget. We'll point out to you the new line item that we added. The Sustainability Committee, this is the $2,000 here. And don't have exactly where we are on where those other elements for the Board of Health are, but it has been included and the table been updated.
Brian, I see on page 17, the looks like the Board of Health or the Health Department, the 120,000.
Mhm. Thank you.
But I guess my question is the Neshoba Board of Health below, I see 35, but I see 0 for 2023.
Right.
Mhm. Okay.
They're doing
Yeah,
it.
and that's actually correct. We are basically paying for Neshoba Boards of Health out of the salary surplus right now. But
okay.
you're right, Jerry. That's why it's not there. And what you're going, and I thank you for bringing this up, because what you're going to see later in, I believe this is going to be Article 8. It's Article 18. We are asking town meeting to alter their earlier vote on the Neshoba Boards of Health that they had at an earlier town meeting to basically allow us to stay in it. And we give an explanation of how we got to that point. Really, this is a way of an element of redundancy and support for the new team. One of the, I think, really responsible things we did here was to say, yes, we're going to move forward in FY24 with a Board of Health director, but we also want to make sure that that individual is successful. So they'll be working hand in hand with Neshoba Boards of Health to get their practices. We're essentially establishing a department from scratch.
Mm-hmm.
So it's going to take some time, and we have to find the right person to make that happen. But so that's why that money then has essentially been maintained here in FY24, because Neshoba Boards of Health is asking us to stay. If we're staying on for another year, it's actually a minimum 2-year requirement. And this is the funding for year 1 of that.
I don't see where the facilities director is. Do you know?
Oh, that, let's see. Again, Jerry, this is it's
Probably in the building.
41 pages.
It's
I'm
under
not
public buildings.
sure exactly where it is, but
Page 19 under public buildings.
Probably
okay.
in the public building group.
Bear with me.
Oh, okay.
You see it goes up about 60,000.
Yeah, I do. Thank you.
Thank you,
I-
everyone.
I do want to say that I guess it ultimately wouldn't change anything, and I still do think that the facilities director is important. But I do feel that there was some information left out of the previous meeting as far as the candidates that came up for this, which I was really kind of disappointed. I didn't realize that it seemed to me from the meeting that we had that there were no applicants for the job. Thus we needed to add more money to it. And I have found out since then that that's not entirely true. So I guess I just feel like there were some omissions there that I'm disappointed about.
Yeah. And Jerry, I can speak to that to the extent that what did happen. So there was the initial job description was graded out. We advertised and put it out there. So we did interview some candidates at the time, and it's kind of hard to talk about personnel issues and people you interviewed, so that maybe watching it sometimes, but it was a question of whether or not the individuals that we were interviewing had the appropriate skill level that we really need. And we were just seeing that, there was sort of a grouping of skills that they had, but really what we're hoping to do by going back and hopefully regrading this position, that we'll be able to bring it at a higher level, similar to what the Board of Health was doing.
Well, except the Board of Health was kind of the opposite. They originally were looking for that higher level person and weren't finding it because they needed someone more able to be boots on the ground, where that's not a department that's fully up and running yet. And I kind of felt that maybe the same thing was true with the facilities manager. Maybe we needed somebody who was more of a working facilities manager as opposed to just that administrative type. At the higher level, that we needed someone who was actually going to be able to get their hands in there until the department gets grown. But that I don't want to rehash all that.
It's fine.
But I appreciate it.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Thanks, Jerry.
Good point, Jerry.
Okay. All right. So moving ahead, Article 5 is our revolving funds. This is an annual article that repeats itself. I would note a new item here for this year is Parks and Recreation and Community Education. That is now, as from prior town meeting votes, that is moving on from being an enterprise fund to now a revolving fund. So we then have to establish a spending cap on that. So that's reflective. I think we also added, and Patty, please correct me if I'm wrong, but these two additional new items, which is the school department 101 technology and non-resident tuition.
I think the non-resident tuition is the new one.
Which one's that?
Just the non-resident tuition, I think.
The non-resident. Okay, sorry. Yes. Okay, you're correct. Okay, thank you.
In what are those two?
So my understanding is the non-resident tuition is for when we have different programs that other people that come in. It's not part of the school choice. It's just they'll come in and they'll pay tuition to come in and use a special program that we have here. The technology, I'm not sure what that one is.
Yeah.
So
I think
those are in the school department?
Correct.
Yes.
Okay.
yeah. The one, Fred, is I think the money to collect for Chromebooks. They have like a Chromebook purchase.
That's right.
You have to
Okay.
either provide
Okay.
a device or get the money for it.
Yeah, I just didn't recognize the title. That's all. Okay. Okay.
So that's Article 5, again, establishing caps. This is Article 6, Board of Water Commissioners. We did get, was this, Patty, did we get a tweak on this from Nick in terms of the bottom line? I think it's the same.
Bottom line's the same. We just changed he broke out the revenue from user charges, and then he broke out betterments and some enterprise funds that they're going to be used and that are available. The 8,000,000 doesn't change. It's just what buckets they're in, and that will be reflected in the revision.
Okay, good. So this is our water article. Sewer article next. Again, just an update on what we've done in past years. We just to remind everybody that right now the town is the only customer of the sewer system, so these expenses are costs to the town at this time.
Yeah, and I mean, 3 or 4 years ago, we were paying $100,000, and we still have the same system we had. And I do understand that there's, there is borrowing, and we have to pay for that. But spending $500,000 to do the same thing we did 3 years ago is a little tough to swallow.
Okay. Article 8 is our capital budget. Just to remind everybody, we've got a transfer here of just over $1 million from certified free cash. Just to remind everybody, we had 1.7 million from our template as to what we could allocate to capital spending. The difference here that would be just under 700,000. We are proposing to add to the capital stabilization reserve. So,
Right.
So just to go through and remind everybody what it is that we're purchasing for this year. First is a replacement of a 2023 SUV with a new hybrid Ford Explorer hybrid. Next item is installation of irrigation wells at Cooper Field and Town Common. We're currently paying for potable water when we water those fields, and this is we're going to be working with Steve Youngley to get these wells on, and we think there's going to be able to be some cost savings to the town once that's done.
So excuse me, the schools, and maybe Tyler, maybe you know this or not, when the schools water the fields either at Russell Street or the high school, they pay for that water?
Yeah, I believe so, Fred. I know when we talked with the schools, they were interested in, potentially replacing some of that with additional wells in the future, right? And they're open to this concept, but yeah, their utilities are hitting their budget now.
Because I thought initially, instead of the common, that the Russell Street fields were here rather than Town Common. And it's fine with me to do it this way, but it's just different from when we first started talking about it. That's all. Okay. Sorry about that.
Fred, I don't know about that. My understanding was always Cooper and Town Common, but
I misunderstood. Okay, no problem.
And regardless what it is, at least it's taking two fields offline from, again, taking treated water and the expense associated with that, and allows us to basically, just be using untreated groundwater to.
Oh, I'm absolutely in favor of it. It looked different to me. Okay, thank you.
Okay, all right. Next item is a request from the planning board, $32,000 to hire a consultant for diagnostic reviews of the zoning bylaw. So it's first step. It's kind of a two-step process. First, you have to review everything and then make proposals later on to recodify those rules. It's kind of a lot of communities do this. It's something that we have to keep up with and make sure that our zoning is consistent and accurate. It's an important thing and a cost that we have to take on. So next up is the $200,000 for the upgrade of the police department camera and monitoring and recording system. Essentially has reached the end of its useful life and time to replace. 2 police cruisers for $140,000. What you see is, what we're continuing to do is to try to go more green by replacing these with hybrid vehicles, both for DPW and police. And then for PRCE, we're proposing to purchase one all electric. We're proposing a Ford Lightning here that would be available primarily for PRCE, but also for the building department as well. And we get to turn in our former 2011 Ford Ranger here. So then we get to our school capital items. $71,000 for sidewalk repairs at school facilities. We believe we're going to be upgrading some stairs as well, concrete stairs. High school HVAC unit. It's funny when I talk to people in town, they kind of find it hard to believe, but the high school is 22 years old. So you're getting to the end of the useful life of a lot of key infrastructure, one of them being this HVAC unit. And of course, the next item is $50,000 as it relates to the replacement of the high school roof. So there are portions of the roof that have already been done. I think with the administration building, I believe, is the current one that we're working on. But this would at least provide us the capacity to get ready for that project, which, as I recollect, was $4 million in the capital budget right now as a placeholder. So big dollar item potentially coming our way on that. We may also be looking to include that as part of the MSBA roof program. They have a special program for roofs and windows, and I believe heating systems. But the roof also has to reach a certain age before they'll even consider it.
It's got to be
So,
closer to 25 years, right?
probably, yes. That's
Okay.
right, yes.
Do we have to nurse it to that point? Okay.
Potentially, but at least then we'll have have the capacity to look into it, have that information in hand.
Yep.
And be ready to go should we be able to apply for that application.
And it doesn't seem like the roof can last that extra number of years, at least parts of it.
Yeah, well, it's a point taken. So we're going to continue to work with school staff on that, on the timing. Last up is $100,000 for various facilities improvements, furniture replacement, floor upgrades, and upgrade of the swing sets at the Shaker Lane and Russell Street schools. So $100,000 for that. So again, our capital plan then is just over $1 million here at this point. Let's see later.
Can I just
What?
just because it's and not any of the items, just when we call it free cash, that's always such a bugaboo. I mean, can we also not refer to that as isn't the term undesignated fund balance?
Mhm.
Correct me if I'm wrong. Isn't
Right.
that the same as free cash?
Brian, I think we had it in different ways, but it's the recommendation of town council to put it in as certified free cash. So we had actually, Patty and I were going through like, well, why do we have it written this way? The town council was reviewing it this way. So it's sort of the proverbial. It could be either or, but I want to defer to town council on this one because
but you know the problems it causes it. All right. Carry on. You
That's fine, Brian. I think I'd be happy for the Fincom to clarify it, but it's two ways of saying the same thing.
It's free.
Yeah. No, fair enough. So,
Gotcha.
okay. Our next article is to fund the rehabilitation in the former Indian Hill Music School at 3236 King Street. Just a quick update for the Finance Committee. I met on site today with the OPM and the architect, as well as the school administration staff. PRC was not available. They're at a conference this week, so we will be bringing them into the mix very quickly. We are essentially looking for a quick turnaround to have our OPM and architect provide us with a cost estimate of what the rehabilitation costs will be for 3236 King Street. The good news is that we have, as part of our due diligence and as we prepare for the actual purchase, which is scheduled to occur at the end of this week on Friday. So the board just actually approved of that last night, finalized that process. We have had inspectors in we've done an overall building inspection to look at our elevator, the sprinkler system, and they also did some radon tests, and they did what they call a paper exercise to determine if there would be any other environmental issues or issues on the site. So instead of doing a full 21E where they're doing borings, they're basically looking at what's around the building and do we believe that there could be anything that could be a threat to the site? And basically, the things that were identified were things that we were already well aware of. We know we're going to be looking at some element of the outside envelope replacement and upgrades to some of our HVAC systems. And of course all the other basics that we're going to have to do, like replacing flooring. Painting walls, patching holes, things of that nature. But having been to the building on multiple occasions and talked to people who are more well versed in building facilities. They, I think the group's been very supportive and understand and believes that what the feedback I've received at least is that the building's in relatively good shape, and with not a tremendous amount of work, we hope that we can bring this as a really functional asset to the town, relatively soon. So we don't know. So in short, we don't know what the number is yet, what that will be. We'll be bringing that to the select board and finance committee before town meeting. So we're talking about deadlines and really trying to get a better sense of what that figure would be for insertion at town meeting, probably the week before town meeting at this time. So so it's great progress, except again, we've got nothing for you to vote on here in terms of an actual figure, and that figure will be forthcoming. So
Okay, and do you have a 21E report at this point?
no, Fred, because so typically you do the 21E when that is the more extensive of the reports. So
Right.
then drilling holes, and that's also a bigger cost. So what we chose to do for the recommendation of town council was a lighter level review, which really would focus more on a review of the surrounding parcels, anything that was in DEP files, were there any spills on site, anything of concern on that end.
Right.
And nothing came back to us that was of material concern.
All right. Well, 100 years ago, that building started out as a barn, so farms are notorious. So, okay, just a watch out.
Okay, sure. Okay, so that's Article 9. Article 10 is our CPC article. We had a presentation last night from Linda Stein from the requesting the select board in support of the $4,201 for consultant support of for the historical preservation for the historical restriction on 12 Robinson Road. Just to let you know, the select board did vote to finalize the purchase and sale last night at 12 Robinson Road to the Cataldo Group. So this is something that kind of goes in hand with that, which is that the historic that basically our historic commission is accepting this historic restriction, and then but to do that you then have to be keeping up with it, and this is and checking in on it and reporting on it to Mass Historic Commission, and this is the funding source for that. So some of the other pieces that that CPC is looking to do would be phase 2 of the West Lawn Cemetery Conservation Project. Is about $20,000 from recreation reserves to improve Conservation Commission land. And then the transfer from housing reserves to Littleton Affordable Housing Trust. I think Brian, you're the
Brian, does the town receive any reporting or accountability from the Littleton Affordable Housing Trust, or do we just give them taxpayer money and they spend it the way they see fit to spend it? We've moved quite a bit of money to that group over the years, so
Right.
I'm just wondering if there's any, what are we getting for it?
Well, that's not a loaded question at all.
I can tell you, I'm probably the wrong person to ask on that. Again, that's some. I don't have a lot of background to respond back to that, Fred. But I think it might be useful, Brian. I know you're the liaison to the CPC. If you had anything you wanted to add,
no, but I can take an action item to get an answer.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Yeah.
And Brian, did you have anything else that you wanted to add on this? Again, I believe you're the Fincom rep to the CPC.
No, I mean, I was pleased to see that the whole surcharge thing has been deferred. So
That's correct. They made a decision, just so everyone's aware, that the proposed increase from 1% to 3% will not be taking place on the May 1st annual town meeting.
Okay.
So they chose to withdraw that, but it's not gone entirely. I think they're still going to be looking into it, but
Right.
wanted to have a little bit more time,
Right.
to hold off on that and, come back to town meeting with some more information. So so it's not dead yet, the concept, but, more work will be done on that. So.
Okay, I personally would be more favorable to that if there was a identified funding source other than just basically an override on the taxpayers. So I think if there's a group being put together to look at that, somebody from the Fincom should be participating in that.
Mhm.
Yeah,
Unfortunately, Fred, that's not our fight for tonight. So, again, they
Yeah.
should pass on it, but it is something I'd say for the FinCom members in attendance to keep an eye on, and to
right,
engage Carolyn, the CPC, and your liaison and Brian to
right.
stay on top of.
Hey, Ryan, if I could just acknowledge Carolyn, I see your hands up. We're gonna let Ryan get through kind of presenting these articles, and then we're gonna go back through and vote them and have any further discussion. So I will absolutely promote you in when we go back through them.
So I'll just try to kick through the rest of these. Article 11 is our funding for Littleton Community Television. So $413,203. Standard article. Article 12 is our update to the compensation grid. Proposal is a 2% salary adjustment from I guess the adjustment that was then made at the November special town meeting. So this is the updated table, titles, job titles, etc.
Okay, are
Also has
there any new titles tucked into this list the way they were in the fall town meeting?
yeah, not that I'm aware of.
Okay, and in the future, if there are, they should be highlighted instead of sliding new positions through in a big article like this.
Okay, Fred, noted. Thank you. Okay. So we also have Schedule B here and Schedule D, which is fire department on-call staff.
Yep.
Do any of these changes impact the budget, or are they already built into the budget?
Everything's already built into the budget. Is that Alan?
We're making the assumption this is approved. Okay, so if this doesn't get approved, then the budget will go down.
I suppose so. Yeah, that's I haven't contemplated whether or not this article would fail, but but what's presented is again based on a 2% COLA increase.
Right.
Okay.
Because is there a dollar amount in there that says this article has an impact to the budget of X number of dollars?
It's not. No.
There's a sentence in there. Yeah, because that would be helpful, because there's a lot of stuff in there, but it doesn't say, okay, the budget went up by X number of dollars because of this article. Right, that's what FinCom would be saying yay or nay to.
Right.
Well, remember too, that's also in the main budget too. So, which is you're approving under Article 4 as well. So this is just
Right, I get it. So that's what I'm saying is this article, if this article has an impact to the budget up above, and we're like, wait a second, we don't want the budget to go up, then the article up above needs to be adjusted. The two go hand in hand, I guess I'm saying.
Yeah,
we need to know how much this article impacts. How much of this article is in article, you said number 4, the article?
Correct, right. So if you support Article 4, you're essentially supporting Article 12. The two are connected.
So then we should say this should actually come before article number 4 then, because this impacts article number 4, because this has a number in it that will change the number in article number 4.
Well, I think, Alvin, I think we're presenting a balanced budget, and the COLA's been in, the discussions we've had all along, right? I think we would have to go back and,
Well, I guess it's another one of those simple questions. What's the number? What's the dollar impact to the budget up above? FinCom can't say yay or nay to this article without knowing the dollar amount.
Well, I would also keep in mind that's not also all of our salaries. So it's the salaries for our Schedule A, which is basically our non-union employees. So there's different calculations on union employees. So
No, I get that, but I'm assuming that there was math done behind the scenes to put together the budget. So there should be a number for this article, a dollar amount. If it's not there, it's fine. I'm not going to push it too much. It's just, this is one of the things where Fincom gets asked to vote on something, but there's no dollar amount in there. We don't know what the impact is.
So moving along to Article 13, which is the Capital Stabilization Fund. So this is what we were talking about earlier, where we have our financial management policy that requires an amount equal to at least 1% of the general fund capital plan to be appropriated to the Capital Stabilization Fund. So that's the 498,000. And as we discussed earlier, we had 1.7 million in our capital budget, and we're proposing to contribute an additional 657,000 into the Capital Stabilization Fund for a total contribution of just about 1.2 million into the Capital Stabilization Fund. So the idea here is that, we were talking at different times about, okay, would the 657,000 be well used for what we're looking to do in Indian Hill, but we thought it would be more appropriate to basically put this into the Capital Stabilization Fund now, with the thought that we may be coming back at a later date, and depending on what the number is that the OPM and architect comes up with for Indian Hill, and come forward at a later date, maybe requesting some sort of withdrawal from the Capital Stabilization Fund. So
I'm really pleased that we did this. I think I suggested that we do this months and months ago. So I'm really pleased that this is how we're doing it.
I think that's right as I remember it, Brian. Sure. Okay. Article 14 is the Debt Exclusion Stabilization Fund. This is a transfer from free cash of $474,539. And this is again another contribution. In Article 15 is actually use of the Debt Exclusion Stabilization Fund. So when you giveth, you also taketh away. This is the taketh away part. So this is a amount that we're using to defray some of our debt service costs beginning July 1, 2023. So that's again, a lot of this has to do with how we're maintaining our balances and the strong fiscal policies that we have that's protecting us and keeping our AAA bond rating. And again, this is the amount that we're proposing again to defray the cost of debt this year. So Article 16 is transportation network company funds. That is a fancy way to say for every ride that begins in Littleton, the town receives, I believe it's $1 for each ride for Lyft and any of the other Uber, any of those other services. So this is currently, we're still trying to track this figure down and what number we want to request at town meeting. Last year, I believe the number was about $3,000 in that ballpark. So we don't anticipate this being a big number, but we don't have that for you here. We're hoping to get this before we go to the printer. So I might suggest to the finance committee that you refrain from voting on this, but it's just one of these small dollar items that the law requires us to appropriate to basically ask, request your permission to appropriate that amount. So still waiting on that one. Article 17 is a request from DPW. We are receiving a grant to do an asset management program for our stormwater. Just to remind everybody, I always refer to stormwater as the third and forgotten utility. We have water, we have sewer, but we also have stormwater. And what you've seen in a lot of Massachusetts municipalities, that there are enterprise funds that have been set up to pay for the real cost associated with stormwater and drawing water away from roadways. But that we don't have that here. It may be something we might be looking at in the future years. But in this case, what we're proposing to do is that 60% of the total project cost is going to be covered by the grant, essentially, and that we have about 33,000 that we're going to be covering essentially from in-kind services from DPW staff. And then the remaining $40,000 we're proposing from the funds that we have budgeted in the DPW roadway, the roadway repairs account. The only thing that's missing here is the account number. Again, we just sort of ran out of time with what we were doing. And that would essentially set us up. The state's requiring that the town meeting approve of this. So this is how we're this is basically providing compliance, and then gives us the green light to receive or be eligible for the entire amount, which again, the state is covering was $109,500 in the grant, 60% of the entire amount. And the in-kind services is it's sort of a calculation of staff time. If we're using any other miscellaneous materials, so that's a budgeted figure that we have to basically prove out to the state once we finalize our application. But we've already been approved for the big picture for the actual grant itself. So that's a good thing, but again, requires town meeting approval. Article 8, we discussed a little bit before. This is work with Kevin Baker from the Board of Health on developing a description here of how we got to this point. Essentially, what this is a request to basically amend the vote from the June 12, 2021 annual town meeting, section 3, which was basically said that the town is moving out of the Neshoba Associated Boards of Health, and basically asking that we remain in it for this upcoming year. Just to be clear, the rules that NABH has is that if you are in, you have to be in a minimum of 2 years. So we anticipate staying on for that additional year, which would bring us into FY25. But we also need we also need town meeting's explicit approval to be able to return back into NABH with the intention of providing support for our new health department that we are creating here. And so again, this just tweaks an earlier vote from town meeting, and there's no cost associated. Well, there is a cost associated with it, which, Jerry, you had already pointed out, the monies that we're returning back into that line item, but roughly about $35,000 in expenses that it's already in the operating budget. This just, again, clears up the formality of the fact that a prior town meeting said we would be leaving NABH. So we're coming back to them under this case. So.
Excuse me, Ryan, I'm a little confused. If we need a vote of town meeting to go back to Neshoba, how are we back to Neshoba now? Because the previous vote
we're scheduled to leave. We had a 1 year. We basically had a 1 year. They knew we were leaving, Fred. So we had this sort of an informal arrangement for this 1 year currently, which is fiscal year 2023. But they knew that, but with the understanding that was going to end, and this basically extends it.
Okay. So okay. You sort of had a gentleman's agreement with them. Basically, okay.
Right? They count on the votes from town meeting for member communities to continue on their relationship with NABH. And this is what they specifically had asked for us to continue on.
Okay, not a problem. Thank you.
Okay. All right. So for those of you like me who stayed to town at the February 15th town meeting to 12:30 counting votes, I'm being sarcastic, but so one of the things that came out of this in turning, as well as one of the discussions about venues and that, we sort of had a debrief and we talked about ways that we can maybe make things run smoother for town meeting. One of the things that came up was looking into the possibility of doing electronic tabulation of votes at future town meetings. So this technology is now becoming increasingly common for at representative town meetings in Massachusetts, as well as open town meetings, which is what we have. And because it's becoming more common and it's becoming more accepted, we think we will be able to do this at, I haven't seen any cost estimates, but the request here is there's no dollar amount associated with it. The thought would be that we would come forward to the annual town meeting requesting the possibility of doing, or requesting to allow us to do automatic tabulation in future town meetings, and then coming back, researching the issue, looking at different vendors, and coming back probably to the fall town meeting in 2023 with a estimated amount that we hopefully would be able to implement for the 2024 May annual town meeting. So we first need permission to do it.
Right.
That's what this article is.
There was previously a study committee that I was on that looked into this, and at the time it was going to be about $12,000 to $15,000 per meeting, and at the time that we decided not to do that. So it'd be interesting to see if, as a result of this, they resurrect that that committee. But I think anyone who's at that town meeting thinks we could do better.
And I think, Brian, that was some of your direct feedback, is that we could do better. So this is, so Article 19, the Brian Tarbox use of tabulators, town meeting. So I'm kidding. Come on. Yeah. So part of this is just, again, this is the sort of feedback we had heard. So if we could, one of the things that, Brian, I think correctly pointed out, and it's funny, Brian, I think I was doing the same math. If you thought about how many attendees we had at town meeting, and we think about the hour and a half it took to tally this, it's a lot of hours, and a lot of, so that when you think about that and how a tabulator could, the value of time, and it seems to make a lot of sense for us. And I would also share with you that when we talked to the town moderator about this in our debrief session, I think Brian, he was part of some of those reviews of looking into tabulators. And at the time, the cost and the technology was a little new. But what he's seen in other town meetings is that this is really advanced to a point where I think it's something we can rely on. And it's so much broader, and the technology's improved, that it's a worthwhile thing to move forward with.
And I'll say, if they do form a committee, I'd love to be on it. I'm a certified web security guy. So anyway.
Why are we voting on that though, when there's not a funding request at this time?
We don't have.
You don't have to. We can. I'd be glad to remove that. But
I was just curious if there was a reason.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and I'm still kind of learning the ways, that different communities do it a little differently. There are some finance committees I've worked with that they will vote only if there's a financial implication, and whereas there's other finance committees I've worked with and they vote on pretty much make recommendations on every article. So Tyler, do you know what's the?
Traditionally we don't take a position on articles that aren't financial, Ryan. So so agree with Jerry on this one.
That's absolutely fine. We can and we can alter that, so it's just accordingly. So okay, so we're hitting the home stretch here. Article 20 is street acceptance across Circle. I believe we had another road that we accepted at the fall town meeting, but this is reaching its home stretch, and I think we'll have everything ready, all the documentation, the town meeting for Croft Circle.
Mm-hmm.
We discussed Article 21 with Nick earlier, as well as Article 22 earlier with Nick. So we'll just
and you said the select board did not vote on these two, and why?
Let me check my notes on that one. So I think they
You just wanted correct numbers, I think, right?
Right. And I think that in this instance, for the 19.2, I think they wanted to get maybe a little bit more information on it. And I don't think that they didn't express discomfort with either of the two articles. And as I mentioned to you earlier, Article 22 needs to be updated so that this figure is 25 million, which we talked about that. So, at that, I don't think that I could necessarily classify as to why specifically they wanted to handle this and hold off on it, but I think that they will be making a recommendation prior to town meeting.
Prior to town meeting or prior to going to print?
Prior to town meeting. So this will probably be written up that I would add in this case, that the recommendation would be forthcoming.
Okay.
Article 23, this is a bit of a placeholder. This is for operating budget line item transfers within the current fiscal year budget. We don't necessarily anticipate that we'll be needing anything at this time, but we've got about a month until town meeting. So if there are any suggestions that we do need to make any transfers to this end, we would be presenting it to you. But right now, we don't have anything that we would be adding here. So this is just kind of protect ourselves should we need it.
So are you expecting a special within the annual or not?
No, we're not.
Okay, good.
No. Because one of and that brings us actually, Fred, conveniently to Article 24, which when the FY23 budget was established, there was a debt service payment that is actually due in May 2023 that wasn't budgeted for. So we are coming back to town meeting May 1st with the idea that we need to fund that debt service payment. Patty texted me the numbers last night. Patty, if you have them, please.
I do. It's we have a shortfall of about $286,000.
Right.
So what is the total payment? Is it two? So we have something in there, but we have a $286,000 shortfall.
Yeah, we have a budget of about $165,000 in there, and we're projecting that we're going to need about 451. We have a lot of bands that are have to be rolled over, and because they're 2 years old, we have to pay principal down on them, so that kind of pushed them over a little bit. So
where are we getting the 286?
So the 286 is going to come from sewer retained earnings, as well as in the general fund. We have some of the short-term interest line, we have a surplus in there, and because we are the only users of the sewer, it's fine to use money from the general fund, so we'll just transfer that money in there and get that paid.
Okay, so the sewer department has money tucked away, and we're adding to that to cover the 450.
Correct.
Okay.
Actually, it's 286 that we're covering.
So we're covering the full 286.
It's the sewer retained earnings is covering 106 of it, and then we're covering the balance of a little shy of 180,000.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Yep.
And as we discussed too, that this article would now be moved up to right after Article 7, which is the FY24 sewer enterprise budget, just kind of thematically stays close to it. So just be aware that change would be made as well. And we are at the last article. This is basically simply a placeholder, so that we had asked the select board if they would be willing to accept this. The short story with this is there was a town meeting that had 25 Robinson Road in it that changed it from I believe a residential zoning to commercial zoning. This is part of the Northern Bank project. When we submitted that article to the Attorney General said that we understand what you're trying to do, but you did not include a map within the warrant to allow the public to know what parcel is being moved. it's really a technicality. And so right now, town council is in active discussions with the developer of the Northern Bank project on Great Road. And so I think it's Great Road, that they're working on that, and we may not need this article because this may essentially be a revote from a prior period. So again, it's really more as a placeholder, and we'll finalize that in the next day or so to determine whether it will go forward. So
So Northern Bank is basically covering this.
yeah, they're the ones that we're working with to determine if we need to do this. So it's really a technicality, but essentially, potentially, we may be looking at again revoting this zoning change that prior town meeting had already approved, but didn't have the map. So this would be the same vote, presumably with a map. So so that's it. That pretty much concludes the ending, and of course our last page to make sure it gets mailed out to all the residents of town. So with that, I would turn it back over to you, Tyler. I will go back to the top here and just leave this. I can leave this up for people if you want to go through it that way, Tyler, or we can just show.
Yeah, I mean, I think I think we should scroll through them again, Ryan, and just we'll just take a motion per article, and if folks have questions, we can discuss. Or let's just try and blow through them, and then I'll promote Carolyn in, and then I'll get to CPC.
Sure. So Article 1 and 2, there's no financial element there.
Right.
So that's fine. And Article 3 is bills of prior years.
Right. Yeah, this one's pretty. We're pretty used to this one. So would anyone like to make a motion to recommend this article?
So moved.
Can I get a second?
Second.
All right. It's been moved and seconded that the Finance Committee supports Article 3 for the annual town meeting. Since we're on Zoom, roll call vote. Brian?
Aye.
Fred?
Aye.
Barry?
Aye.
Alvin?
Yo, help.
Al?
Aye.
All right.
Oh, you didn't hear me? Ah, shoot.
And yes as well. All right.
Tyler, can I make a suggestion for you, just for time's sake? One of the things the select board did last night was to sort of kind of go through everything, but then if there wasn't any, and we can kind of set aside ones that we maybe have a discussion, and instead just voted at one block, if that's possible.
Yeah, well, Ryan, as I was going through this, I was thinking I was regretting my decision already. So I think it's a wonderful idea. I'll keep a running tally here of the articles, and we can do a consolidated motion at the end.
Sure. Okay.
Hey, can you guys hear me now?
Yes.
Yes.
Yep.
Okay, good. I was figuring out my phone here. Okay. I was aye on that last one.
Yeah, we already did that, Alvin. Thanks.
Okay.
All right.
All right. So Article 4,
obviously.
the budget. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I was gonna say this is our article. I mean, I think we've obviously gone through this one, a ton over the last few months, and have the updates in here. But I mean, does anyone have any additional questions or concerns on anything in Article 4? Okay.
5, revolving funds.
I guess the one question I had on here was just with the Park and Rec community education, since that's a new one. I mean, how do we determine that amount? Do we just kind of look at their historical spend and it just okay?
Yeah, that's exactly what we did when we decided. I actually had gone through the numbers over the weekend and came up with $1 million, and they had I guess they had talked over about 1.1 million, which is fine.
Okay, yeah, they've been growing the programs every year, Patty. So I just wanted to make sure we gave them a little, give them a little bit of headroom so they didn't bang into it.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, because that's a good point, Tyler. We were actually, I think, originally at 1, and then the additional 100,000 was added just in case. You're right. Headroom's a good thing in this case. Okay, that's Article 5. Article 6, we would, again, I have to update this table, just to, but the end number is still the same at an FY24 budget of $8,004,178.
All right. Does anyone have concerns on this one with the detail being updated, or do we feel comfortable since it's just an update in revenue source? I mean, I'm fine either way.
I'm comfortable with it.
Yeah.
All right.
7, sewer budget.
The only thing on the sewer budget, the 23 budget is understated by what, 280,000 or whatever the number is. And we're voting to spend that money in 2023. So
Yeah, so Fred, the thing I
year
said
over year,
there, yeah, so Fred, the thing I say that we do provide that as just as information. The article will come in after that. So it's a point taken, but it wouldn't render the article deficient. Because again, up to this point, you wouldn't, if the change comes to Article 8, that won't happen until after that. So, but it's still point taken, I understood.
All right. Anyone have questions on 7 or?
so the
I
360,
think-
so the 361 is actually what?
Patty, I believe there would be 361 with the addition of the $286,000 in sewer debt.
Okay, so it's 280 on the 361.
Correct.
So it's actually a decrease in fiscal
So that's-
24 user charges.
So are we comfortable with, are we comfortable with the 507 for 24? Because debt service isn't going down.
No, yeah, I looked into the debt service when we caught the issue in 23. We looked into 24 and the debt looks like it's okay. This has to do a lot with band pay downs that were not expected for this year. I don't think that's going to be an issue next year.
Okay. So it's really the ban issue that's driving it.
It's really the ban issue was a big one. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you, Patty.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm okay.
Okay. Article 8 is our capital items.
Nope.
Okay. Article 9, I think that you probably wouldn't want to vote on Article 9 tonight, because again, we won't have a figure for you until probably the week before town meeting at least.
Right.
That would, so probably something to pass on this one. CPC.
All right. So let me, Caroline, if you're still there, I'm gonna let you talk here. You're on mute. If you want to unmute yourself and add anything.
Okay. Hi, thanks. Just sorry, Ryan. He's going to be so sick of me at the end of this week. So the $200,000 that we got from the 242 King Street Trust, the
Montanari property.
yeah, we need to account for that. I don't know, it just kind of got overlooked. I didn't think of it till this morning, because that should be deposited as blended funds into this year's revenue.
Right.
Okay.
I believe the money, if it's not here, we should be able to get it now from, I mean, we've signed the MOU between us and the water commissioners.
I think we have those funds.
Yeah. So that needs to go as a revenue item into the CPA fund for this fiscal year, so it will be matched in November.
In the fall, sure.
Well,
So is that something that you would work with her on, Patty, or does she have to work with the light department or whatever, the water department or whoever it was?
Well, I see the cash receipt. It came in, I do see the cash receipt.
Oh, okay, so it's in the general.
Yeah, it's under, I was actually going over the CPA, the way we have it set up earlier. And the $200,000 was receipted, it looks like it was receipted in January at some point, January 6th, it looks like.
Yep, that makes sense.
Yeah, and it's just sitting in another capital fund, so.
So it needs to be shifted to the CPC.
Yeah, it's under CPA, other capital, I'm not sure.
Oh, it's in CPA, other capital.
It is.
Okay.
Yeah, it's earmarked for recreation, so it should be accounted for in the recreation bucket.
All right.
But I think it's something that we have to vote for it at town meeting to go into the CPA budget.
Right.
So Carol, this is the first I've heard of this. I mean, I know I was aware of the 200,000 coming in
Yeah.
from the property, so that much I was aware, but in terms of us accounting for it, this isn't something we had, I've had the opportunity to look into and
No, and I worked with Alicia on it, and like I said, even seeing Nick Lawler last night didn't even occur to me until this morning that it wasn't in the article.
Okay.
Yeah, that's a good catch, Carolyn, because we wouldn't want to miss the match because we didn't get a bucket, that's all.
Carolyn, does CPC need to revote? Do you need to revote your budget as well? Like, does CPC need to revote it if it was missing from what you guys discussed?
No, because we voted to accept it.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's already in our minutes that we've accepted the donation and that we've signed the MOU. The select board has accepted it.
So are you saying it should just be in number 7 in your recreation reserves? Or that's what has to be voted?
Yeah, no, it would have to be, it would be another item, so it would add to that $115,000 figure.
So $315,000.
Right. Or if we could if we could put it separately, it would be great because would actually be counted as blended funds, so it's over and above the surcharge.
Okay, so we want an item number 8 blended fund, and you could even, ordinary property or whatever you need to as a clarifier on it.
Can I just ask a quick question? So if we receive though this money in January of 23, isn't this a 23? You're talking about adjusting the reserves for 23. No?
You receive it in 23 and you get the match in 24
Oh, okay.
with CPC. So what we're concerned about is just missing the match on the 200,000.
Okay.
Okay, so Carol, would you be comfortable with an item 8 that says, blended funds 200,000, and you can put whatever, fund, something like that, and then the 200,000.
Yeah, and Patty, you and I are meeting tomorrow afternoon. We can go over it a little bit more if you want.
Yeah.
I'll bring the backup to it and everything with me.
Yeah, that would be great.
Good. Okay. Good catch, Carolyn.
So, and again, I would want to run this past town council, but
Yes.
At least in terms of the Fincom, if you were to move forward and approve it as amended, that's fine.
Okay.
And if we, again, with the understanding that if it shouldn't be there, we can adjust it as well. And so.
The select board vote on this last night?
They did. I'd have to kind of figure out, and maybe have them revote it.
Yeah. Yeah, I apologize. I was there. It just never occurred to me.
No, it's a good catch.
Yep.
Rather have you catch it now than miss it.
Yeah. Okay. So we propose to go forward, Article 10 is amended then, basically. Okay.
Yes.
All right. All right. That's fine.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks, Carolyn.
Come back anytime with 1,000.
Okay. So, all right, Article 11, LCTV, which is 413,000. The grid, which we talked about, 2% goal increase. Okay, so, okay.
Yep.
Capital Stabilization Fund. This is the split between the formulaic piece and then the balance of the 1.7 million that we had left over from our capital funding. So, which is a total contribution of $1,155,706. Article 14 and 15 are our debt exclusion stabilization fund articles, both to place money in and take money out. Article 16, I probably encourage you to take a pass on at this point because we don't know what the number is. We have to work, again, we have to work at getting something in there at this point. So that one we could pass on. Stormwater management, this one's okay. We just need to put in the budget number here as to where the account appropriated. Monies are already in the FY 24 budget for this, so we just have to put in the account as to where it's coming out of.
Okay, and the DPW director's okay giving up 40 grand out of his roadway repairs?
That was his recommendation.
It was, okay, great, okay, great.
The Neshoba Associated Boards of Health, so that's the piece we discussed. They're not sure if the Fincom would want to make a recommendation on this, but it is kind of tied to some of the other things we do.
Yeah, Ryan, I would say, I mean, normally I'd say we wouldn't have taken a position on it, but since we're kind of, it's kind of, duplicate spending and we're paying out of both buckets, it probably is a little more relevant this time, right?
Right.
Probably. So, yeah, so that's okay, good. Electronic tabulators, there will be a financial implication likely in the fall, but so kind of let the finance committee discuss that as to they want
I
to
think
take
we should
this in.
vote in the fall when there's a number.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't think we would want to take a position this one now, right? I think you could remove us from 19.
Okay. Street acceptance, so that's typically select board, planning board, so not,
Not us.
got it. And then, Article 21 and 22, so, this may be something you want to, as I said, the select board it took a pause on those articles, and up to the finance committee as to what if they'd like to take any action at this time.
Yeah, I mean, what does the group feel about that? I mean, I think at a minimum, if we were going to support these, we would want to, modify 22, right, and support it modify to the 25 and 27, 343, 350.
Correct, yeah.
Yeah, that's right. Thank you.
Does anyone want to put a hold on these, or do you want to add them to the slate that we're voting?
The only thing that I would hold on the 19 is we're still up in the air on what's happening with Boxborough, and without knowing, what the agreement is between the two towns, we don't really know how much is on us, or if Boxborough select board balks at it, then I would not be in favor of it at all. Because then the entire potential burden would fall on Littleton. So I would think that both the selectmen and us could, meet even in a joint meeting sometime in late April when there's more information on the agreement between the two towns. The sewer is, it is what it is, and we're all taking a giant leap of faith on it that 550 and the other projects are going to go up on the common. But with the 19 million one, Boxborough's still a bit of a flyer on this.
Okay. All right. So we'll put a, yeah.
That's just my 2 cents. The rest of the board has a feeling we should talk about it, but
I think it makes sense, Fred. I mean, I think, we have plenty of time. We can vote this one on the, prior to town meeting. Right. We'll have our meeting there. And if it's more,
it shouldn't be in the half hour before town meeting. Yeah. I mean, there should be a joint meeting
conversation. Yeah.
I think this is a takeaway for you. There should be a joint meeting, maybe a week before town meeting to review this. And if the water commissioners or whoever need to come in, or Nick has to come in and give us an update on what the deal is, then we should do that.
I agree.
Okay. Article 23 was the FY operating budget line item transfers. So there's really nothing to recommend here. So I'd probably keep it here as forthcoming because we're not recommending any dollar changes to you at this time. And that's probably another one of those, half hour before town meeting we come to you with. And this is the sewer enterprise budget. This is going to be moved further up into the order to become Article 8. And Patty had talked about how that would be funded. And last one's is the zoning map change, which the Fincom wouldn't typically vote on.
Yeah. Going back to 24, since there aren't numbers in there, or 24, the future 8, right? There aren't numbers in there yet, so it's probably another one we should hold on for now, right? I would think.
Yeah.
It's fine.
All right. So by my notes here, so we would be looking for a motion to recommend Articles 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 10 as amended,
Right.
11, 13, or 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 17, 18, and 22 as amended.
And the only question I have, if we vote these and Ryan moves, I don't know, one of the sewer articles up to number 8, does that change everything, or are we okay voting it and then you change it, which changes all the numbers that we approved? And it's a parliamentary question. I don't know.
So maybe in the minutes, could we reflect the actual names of the articles? I'm not sure if that, or do we need to make a motion, Ryan?
Fred makes a good point, but I think it's also too in the draft that's currently being reviewed, right? So we're saying, the article numbers as referred to, the draft is that we present.
And that is okay. If we, in the language, you say the draft article number, I'm fine with that.
Yeah,
I just didn't want
Yeah.
to have, some town meeting lawyer come back and say, well, you voted this article and why did, it's not that article and all
Good
that.
point.
Hoo-ha, that's all. But no, I think if it's noted as a draft warrant article, I'm fine with that.
Okay.
Good point.
So, Ryan, can you go back to Article 22? I mean, we're talking about as amended, but I mean, I feel like, so everyone, so that would be 25, right? Just to make sure that would be not to exceed.
Yes, 25 million,
Yeah,
right.
25
Right.
and 27, 343, 350.
Right. And again, if you want to take a pass on that one too, that's, and it's not, you have the option of voting on it, later on.
Yeah.
That's,
Yeah, no,
the numbers would be amended as you just described, yes.
Okay, yeah, and I just wanted to confirm that for the record. I mean, no one put a hold on it. I'm fine with it. So I think we're okay.
All that being said, I'll say so moved.
All right. Well, yeah. So I'll repeat it again just to be with the amendment based on what Fred said. So I guess I'm looking for a motion that the Finance Committee support articles in the draft warrant as of 3/28/2023 at 8:51 p.m. Articles 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 10 as amended, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 17, 18, and 22 as amended.
Did you say also Article 3, Tyler? Those are prior years?
They already voted that one.
Yeah, that was.
Oh, that's right. I forgot. That's right.
Yeah.
That's right. That was earlier
That was
in the meeting. Yes. Okay, good.
Yep.
Thank you. Yes.
All right. Would anyone like to?
So moved. How's that?
All right. Can I get a second?
Second.
Moved by Fred, seconded by Brian. All right. We have a motion and a second. Roll call vote since we are on Zoom. Fred,
Aye.
Brian,
Ryan, aye.
Jerry,
Aye.
Alvin,
Aye.
and Tyler is a guest as well. And so we are holding, and we'll have a potential future recommendation on Articles 9, 16, 21, 23, and 24, and we want to take a position on 19.
I'm going to stop my share. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Ryan.
Thank you.
All right. On to public input. Is there anyone, Carolyn or Saul, anyone else hanging in the audience that had anything else to? No. Okay. No hands. Thank you both for attending tonight. I know it's been a late night. Member updates. Fred, anything for the committee tonight?
Nope.
Jerry?
Nope.
Brian?
No, but are we going to go over the draft report that you and Patty wrote?
Yeah, I was going to do that for my member update.
Oh, okay. So I have nothing else.
All right. Al?
Nope.
All right. So, yeah, that was the one thing, that I wanted to bring up is just, did everyone have a chance to look at that? I can share it. I can share it. Just give me a sec here. I just gotta pull it up. But, kind of have to pull this one together really quick. We took a stab at a draft. Steve looked at it as well. But if anyone had any thoughts on things that were missing or felt strongly needed to be added, now's the time. Yeah, Brian, go ahead. I mean,
So first of all, yay, way to go, good job, full stop. I think it's worth mentioning here the whole thing, how we're shifting IT out to the individual departments, just because we're going to keep saying that, and I think it's worth saying here, hey folks, watch out for this change. It's moving numbers around, but it's not really doing anything.
okay, yeah. So yeah, how then we moved out software costs into the various town departments to better reflect their expense lines.
Yeah.
Okay.
Mhm.
Patty, I can take a tweak at adding a sentence somewhere for that. That should be an easy one to get in there.
Okay.
The other thing is, and it's probably not for here, but at some point, I do want us to, for the town meeting, to be talking about free cash isn't free, inside the levy isn't free, is that go here, or does that go? I'd love that to at least to be in our presentation.
Yeah, I mean, it's a good question, Brian. And Ryan, I mean, I think we talked about this before, and we never really found a place for it. But one of our ongoing concerns is just that the philosophy of free is free, right? And every time we have one of these big building projects, as long as it jams into the levy, that seems to be the consensus of the town, and people don't seem to really take the time to educate themselves on the trade-offs of that. So I don't, I know the ask has been, to have time at town meeting to present that. And frankly, I'm not sure exactly where that fits in, or if that fits in, but I think we struggle with not being able to communicate that or educate the town on it. So, I mean, I don't know if you have thoughts on that, if we could talk with the select board and get their thoughts. Or I have a feeling that the moderator probably wouldn't want us to have a long, presentation on there if it wasn't tied to an article, but I'm just not sure what's appropriate where we could slide that in,
But at the annual town meeting, don't we make a presentation that's essentially generally pretty similar to this report. And I think that's the place where we could take 30 seconds, to say, unless we're not going to actually do a presentation.
Well, we didn't do one. I mean, we haven't done one since I've been back on Fincom, Fred. I don't believe, right? I mean, we typically don't. I mean, we talk to the articles if there's a question, but we typically haven't done at least not in the last couple of years, done a Fincom presentation at the annual, have we?
But we did the last year I was on, but I don't know what you guys did the 2 or 3 years I was gone, and then last year you didn't do one. So, but it can be done or not. But I know that we were doing them, and because I did do the last one before I was removed. So
Okay. Yeah. I mean,
it's not that big a deal, but again, talking with Tim, I don't know whether, everybody's all womped up about, streamlining town meetings. So it may be that, they don't want to do it, but if we have something to say, we should stand up and say it.
okay.
So if we can do a presentation, I'd love to do it. If not, I'd love to, I can write up a couple sentences for the report.
Yeah, right. Yeah, I wasn't aware that we'd done that. Ryan, can we take that as kind of a homework thing? We'll do a little bit of research on what had been done in the past, because I wasn't aware of that, and we can talk about it at our next meeting, Brian. I think it's a good idea. I wasn't aware that we had that forum, so that's good to know.
And I wasn't aware that we had stopped it, because in the 5 years I was on previously, we always did it.
Right.
Yeah, I can't remember from my past, from when I was on in the past, but I know since I've been back on, we haven't done that. But I probably just forgot we used to do it in the past. All right. So I will add in that verbiage about moving. I'll leave it a little. I can highlight, Brian, the specifics of moving software costs, but I think we can highlight it as an ongoing effort to move costs to where they belong, so that department budgets represent accurately represent their loaded costs or whatever. So that makes sense. All right. Any other questions or input on our annual report on that letter? All right. Moving on to minutes. Marilyn, is there anything we need to approve? Just the last meeting.
It's right? It's only the last lot of minutes. And Fred caught how I thought I had proofread it so carefully, but I guess I must have been exhausted from it all. And I I went through it and I sent it to everybody.
From the fort, yeah, that was for the 14th, right?
Yeah.
So, does anyone have any questions on the minutes for the 14th, or would someone You want to make a motion to approve?
I'll move motion. Minutes of the 14th, I believe it is. Yep.
Yeah, March 14th.
Second.
Can I get a second? All right, great. It's been moved and seconded that to approve the minutes from the Finance Committee meeting of 3/14/23. Roll call vote. Brian?
Aye.
Al?
Aye.
Jerry?
Aye.
Fred?
Aye.
All right, I'm a yes as well. All right. Other business. We're going to add this one in from now on just as to better reflect, give us some more flexibility and better reflect what should be in the in our agendas. I don't know that anyone have anything that we should discuss under other business. No. All right. The motion of the day here. Can I get a motion? Anyone care to make a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn since Fred usually does it.
I know that was slow. Second.
I'll second.
All right, there you go. All right, it's been moved and seconded that we adjourn. Jerry,
Yes.
Al,
Yes.
Fred,
Sure.
Brian.
Yes. Aye.
All right, I'm a yes as well. Thanks, everybody. Have a good night.
Bye.
Thank you,
Tyler.
Patty. Thank you, Ryan.
Yep.
Yes, ma'am.
Tyler, will